The Maple Leafs make a big splash, signing top college free agent Luke Haymes to the prospect cupboard, and they return home tonight to face the Flyers. We'll discuss all that more on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. The Maple Leafs in action tonight, taking on the Philadelphia Flyers. They return home after a quick little road trip, and I think, Dave, Toronto gonna want to have a good response game. So if you want to go to the game, use Game Time, use the code LOCKEDONNHL, and get $20 off tickets if you want to go down to the arena and watch the Buds in action tonight, because I do expect for them to show up in front of the Toronto faithful after that porous performance Saturday night.
Yeah, no, they need a bounce back after what was a really missed opportunity. And you get another team that's kind of in a similar situation, right? Another team that's way out of the standings. They're thinking the future, and it's one of those, like, we've watched this team play the Flyers before, and it hasn't always been easy for them. But these are the games. These are the gimme games, right? These are supposed to be the gimme games. The Flyers are the 28th ranked team. They got to treat them like the 28th ranked team.
Yes, and Toronto's had a lot of success. Last 10 games, they're 9-1 against the Flyers. Like, they've absolutely mopped the floor with this team over the course of the last couple of years, and obviously scored 2 wins earlier in the year, so they're going for the series sweep. Couple 3-2 victories already, so they'll go for the series sweep tonight. And there's a bit of a mix-up in practice, though. We've been talking about how the top 6 seems to be solidified, and still need to see what we can get out of a bottom 6 when it comes to trying to find some chemistry, some lines that work. Where's Scott Laughton going to play? And in practice, we did see Craig Berube make a bit of a shift, and we're going to see a bit of a different lineup in the bottom 6. I don't know if you want to bring up what the lines are going to be looking like for tonight's game, but as expected, you got the top line of Nyes, Matthews, and Marner, and Bobby McMahon, who we think has solidified himself as the top 6 player, second line player with Tavares and Nylander. Scott Laughton remains on the wing here, Dave, and he'll move up to the third line alongside Domi and Nick Robertson, and then Holmberg checks in for David Kampf with Lorentz and Yarncroc as his wingers. Your thoughts on this configuration of the bottom 6?
I think this is probably the best configuration at this rate that you can do with this bottom 6, right? Like, there's really, other than, maybe you could try to find a way to get David Kampf in there. Like, you got to try to get Scott Laughton higher than playing fourth line, right?
Yes.
Like, he wasn't brought in here to be a fourth liner. And look, I understand it takes time, new team, new surroundings and everything like that, but they got to find a way to get him going on this third line. The third line needs it too. Like, they're not good defensively if he's, with Domi and Robertson there. Holmberg didn't exactly help, right? They didn't have a good game against Nashville, in my opinion. And to me, Laughton gives, he has the higher ceiling out of all those, options to play on that left wing spot. So yeah, they have to find a way to make this work. The only other thing they could potentially do once he's, back and healthy is get Max Pacioretty going in the third line role, right? But I think Laughton's your best option. This is probably the best option you can have if they can get this to work.
So you think that when all said and done, you expect for him to be on the wing, or like, because that's
I think you're going to see a mix. Berube kind of talked about it a little bit. He says, look, yeah, he can play center. It's not that right now, I think they're trying to get him comfortable and don't put him in that responsibility of having to play center. But I do think you're going to see maybe a bit of an interchange between that and Domi. at center, and like they could at some point if they need to get a draw, Laughton can go in there and play center, right? So I think I don't think this is the end of Scott Laughton as a center option. I think this is just they're trying their best to get him going.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. And then once he feels comfortable with the new system, the new surroundings, and he spoke after practice on Monday and did say he feels like he's getting more comfortable and felt that he's played a little bit better the last couple games he did in his first couple. And keep in mind, he did score in the game against Nashville. It did, it didn't count, but he was in there in the offensive end, got a stick on a puck, and up in the back of the net, got wiped off. High stick, but he did score. So maybe, tonight against a little revenge game going up against his old Philadelphia Flyers, this might be a spot for a little Scott Laughton goal. So again, I mean, if you're thinking on FanDuel, you're thinking, okay, might want to place a wager, a little $5 anytime bet. A revenge game narrative for Scott Laughton makes a lot of sense to me. I wouldn't mind maybe slapping $5 down on him to score a goal tonight because I know that he's going to be motivated to play. Right, he's welcoming in the Flyers, who is the only other franchise he's ever had a experience playing with. There he's coming into the building. He's gonna have a lot of friends who are coming and playing on the other side, and he's gonna want to show the guy on the other bench, up tonight, and the guy up in the press box, the general manager Danny Briere, and saying, "Hey, you traded me away. I'm gonna make you pay tonight." And I hope for the Maple Leafs' sake they get that because they got to get Scott Laughton going. They gave up a lot for him, and so far the early returns, quite honestly, have not been worth it. He has not looked the part of what you would expect of someone you give up a first-round pick for, but it's still early. It's only been a few games. It's been a couple weeks here. There's still tons of time for these two parties, the Leafs and Scott Laughton and Craig Berube, to all figure everything out. But I think tonight should be one that he should be pretty excited about, I would imagine, against the Flyers. All right, why don't we take a break? Let's come back and take a look at what Philly will be throwing out there. Here's a little sneak peek. It ain't great, Bob. It ain't great. So we'll take a look at the Flyers roster and the lineup on the other side. And the Maple Leafs made a pretty sizable signing to add to their prospect pipeline. We'll tell you who that is and what he's all about next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. It's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's going to cut down the nets. I've got an eye on a couple underdogs this year, and FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. With the tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Today's show is also brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing quite like watching hockey live, the energy of the crowd, the sound of the ice on the skates, and maybe even a celebrity sighting or two. If you want to catch a game in person, Game Time makes it getting tickets easier than ever before. Game Time's new feature, Game Time Picks, filters out the fluff and shows you only the incredible most best deals of great seats, so you don't have to waste time scrolling through thousands of tickets. I just checked the Game Time app, and there's some amazing deals on some big-time Leaf games coming up, including tonight for the Leafs and Flyers. Game Time Picks even highlights super deals, giving you the best bang for your buck. And with seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and a low price guarantee, you can book with total confidence. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. The Locked On Leafs podcast continues with Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. We're with you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, with brand new episodes of the Locked On Leafs podcast, free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and also up on YouTube as well. Maple Leafs in action tonight. They return back home, taking on the Philadelphia Flyers. A little Scott Laughton revenge game is kind of what my eyes are going to be on. He's definitely the player that I'll be locked into tonight for Toronto. Also just need him to just have a good game, a statement game to get going in the right direction. And what better time than taking on the Philadelphia Flyers? But Dave, we were kind of having a little, our little pre-show chat before we got going, and we're digging into the matchup and talking about what we think of the Philadelphia Flyers as a group and as a team. And dude, this team is horrendous. Like their roster on paper is so bad. No wonder they have just one win in their last 10 games. This is this is a very effective tank, Dave. A very effective tank because it is. Dude, they got a guy named Noah Cates as their top line center. Noah Cates on their top line center. Like I almost want to say, if you walked up to a fair weather hockey fan, not a junkies like you and I, and people who sought out hockey podcasts, like those are hockey junkies. You probably know some of these names. But if you hand them this roster that's playing tonight, you think they could tell you 50%, like who 50% of these guys are? I'd be quite shocked if the average hockey fan knows 50% of this roster. It's so bad.
No chance. There's absolutely no chance. And like I looked at it, I'm like, who is this guy as their top line center? Never heard of him. Like, never heard of him.
There you go. And you're very plugged into what's going on in the NHL. Now, being a guy that collects hockey cards, collects rookie cards and whatnot, like I know a lot of these guys because of their rookie cards, and I've collected them and I've opened them and whatnot. So like I'm familiar with Noah Cates, but he's not someone who's is gonna wow you. Like that whole line, Forster, Cates, and Brink, like they're okay players, like they're good depth players, but if they're on your top line, you don't have a very good hockey team. Like let's be honest, like both those guys are not scoring a whole lot. Like if you look at what's going on with the Flyers, there's just not a lot of offense for this team, and it's just not coming from anywhere either. Like the Flyers stats are actually quite staggering when you look at them. I'm just trying to pull it up here, and I don't know why my computer is being super slow. So I'm doing that thing where I talk in circles while I pretend like I'm waiting. But there we go. The Flyers this year, their leading point getter, obviously Travis Konechny. That's the main name player on this team is Travis Konechny, 68 points in 72 games. He's having a really good year. But then once you get past him, okay, Matvei Michkov, a lot of people know about him. Really good rookie, good season, 20 goals, 50 points, not bad. But it really drops off after that. Like I said, Bobby Brink's on your top line. He's got 11 goals. Tyson Forster, top line winger, he's got 32 points. Noah Cates, 29 points as your number one center. Now you could flip whatever that first and second line is probably what it would be. This is just how Daily Faceoff had it. But this is a team, again, that Toronto should not struggle against. That's basically what we're getting at in a runaround way. Toronto should not struggle against this team. No. Like Nashville, at least they had good players. Like
they have a good goaltender.
Great goaltender. Here you've got who's like whether it's Ivan Fedotov or I forget who the
Samuel
other person, like whoever that goalie is, you should be able to score 3-4 goals. And you score 3 or 4 on this Flyers team, that should be curtains because there's not a whole lot of offense coming from that group.
No, and it's like I just look at this team. Yeah, like Jamie Drysdale was a top pick not too long ago, but like he's even like it's been a struggle for him with injuries and stuff. And like how is Owen Tippett on the fourth line of this team? And
that's bizarre. I mean, Owen Tippett was the main piece he got back for Claude Giroux, and he's just withering away over there.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where there's like the Torts way of doing things, right? He's trying to send messages, get guys to play the right way. He's done that to Michkov, God knows how many times this year, and yeah, like I don't truly get the direction of the Flyers. And if you're the
Leafs, what do you mean? They're tanking. That's the direction.
Yeah, but the thing is they're not tanking good enough because they were half decent to start the year. Then they're like
they're second last in the East now. So
now they are
completely tanked at this point.
Now they are. And it's like if I'm the Leafs, like if they lose this game, and we know that there's that, I just don't want to be on X that night. If like I might have to delete the app off my phone.
Oh God. If they lose this game, like if they go in a 2-game stretch where they lose to Nashville and then lose to Philadelphia in back-to-back games, that is not going to look good. on this group, and a
I would
lot of
end
the
for
fan base. But like with 10 games to go, a lot of the fan base, like they might check out if that happens. I'm not even joking. They might check out if this team goes back to back lose. It's like they will be looked at as a very unserious hockey club.
and some people already think that. Even like they've thought of it almost all season with some of the losses they've had. This might set some people over the edge.
Yeah.
Like at least Nashville, not a good team. They haven't been performing, but the players that did perform against them, a lot better than what the Flyers have, right?
Right. Like they don't have a Stamkos. They don't have an O'Reilly. They don't have a Roman Yossi. They don't have a UC Soros. They don't even have a Jonathan Marchessault. Like
Evangelista, like
right. You know, like they just don't have those guys. Philip Forsberg, obviously. Like they've got Konechny. Like they've got Travis Konechny, and you know, Matvei Michkov is gonna be a good player, but he's still a rookie. And it's really not much after that. Like even like Ristolainen is not playing tonight. So there's one of your top 4 defensemen, like your top
Hathaway,
guy
who usually gives Leafs such a tough time.
right? Garnet Hathaway, who's, you know, just a big, you know, bully type of guy, hard on the forecheck. So you won't have to worry about that if you're Toronto. So, yes, this is a game that I think the Leafs, it's must have. Get on them early, pile up the goals, you know, score early, score often, and let's win this thing 6-1, 6-2, and pick up your 2 points and keep in lockstep with Florida. Because if that's a flip score and they get jobbed like they did in Nashville, man, that's 2 terrible games, 2 points, 4 points really that would have been pissed away by Toronto when you're in a divisional race here with just 10 games to go basically at this point when you're done this one to go to the playoffs. You just can't have stretches like this at this point. It's got to be kind of reined in. And it looked like they were starting to rein it in. That good 3-game stretch they had earlier in the week, and all it took was one bad game to kind of, you know, unravel and hopefully it's a reality check that you got to stick to the details that they were doing earlier in the week. They stick to those same details, play structured, and don't give up odd man rushes, no stupid pinches, just play structured and detailed, stay on top of pucks. Should be able to easily win this game against the Flyers tonight.
Yeah, maybe try to stay out of the penalty box too. This penalty kill's just been brutal. I mean, I'm not expecting the Flyers power play to be world beaters, but you
don't think that their 13% power play is going to come alive tonight?
Oh my God.
13%. That's what the power play is at. You know what's even more shocking about that? So the power play is 13%. It's not even dead last in the league.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's not even second last, Dave. Not even second last. It's 30th in the NHL. Yeah, the Islanders 12.4%, the Ducks 12.6%, the Flyers 13.8%. So like a decent stretch between
The
second.
Islanders are in the race. That's
with absolute, I was gonna say dog bleep special teams. 12% power play, 71% penalty kill. God. Like literally, they have the worst power play and the 3rd worst penalty kill. Yet they're only a point out of the playoffs. It's kind of wild that the Islanders are in the spot that they're in, even with like a negative goal differential of like nearly.
And that's a team that probably should not have wanted to try to make the playoffs and maybe try to get some real talent on that team.
Yeah, well, you know, don't discount what Lou Lamoriello likes to do and wants to do over there on the island and Patty Waugh. You know that they want to win games, that's for sure. But yeah, the Flyers, they do not want to be winning games these days. They want to try and tank and get the best possible draft selection that they can get. They're in full rebuild mode. Their roster suggests it. They need a big crop of prospects to turn that thing over. So they probably will want to lose tonight, or at least the front office won't mind if they lose. We know the players are going to, you know, give their efforts, and Torts is going to want to win that game too. But yeah, this should be one Toronto. It's almost mandatory win stemming off that game against Nashville. All right, so that's a 7:00 puck drop tonight. Is it no Tuesday game? Okay, I was gonna say is it Monday, but anyways, regardless, I think it's on TSN if I'm not mistaken. All right. On the other side, the Maple Leafs made a big-time addition through college free agency, arguably the top college prospect. We'll tell you about Luke Haymes, what he's all about, and possibly what he could do for Toronto. That's coming up next here in the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I like the no-shell option. It's perfect if you don't want to make a mess, you want to take it on the go, or even just eat it at your desk. And they also have the classic in-shell option if you want that satisfying crunch. And they got so many different flavors, so you got quite a variety to choose from. Get stacking and cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano, Dave Morassutti with you here on the show as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. The Maple Leafs made a pretty big free agent signing, college free agent signing today. They inked Luke Haymes to a 2-year entry-level contract that will start next season, but will play for the Toronto Marlies for the duration of the year in as a PTO. So the Maple Leafs bringing in what is arguably considered the top college free agent on the board this year, Luke Haymes, a Toronto Maple Leafs. What do you make of that, Dave?
I mean, it's nice to hear. There's a lot. There's a lot of good stuff out there on him on X, but this is also a player that they've had their eye on for a bit. He was a player that they invited to development camp back in 2023, so they had a bit of the inside track in a lot of ways on Luke Haymes, Ottawa native, and if you really good story on The Athletic by Josh Cloak. He gives you a really good kind of breakdown of how Matt Molson, former NHLer and turned scout for the Leafs, kind of helped recruit him to Toronto for the to go to the development camp. He did. He's not with the Leafs anymore, but he kind of helped plant the seed a bit for the Leafs to get there. And there's been some comparisons in terms of like what this could mean, like almost like a Tyler Bozak-esque move, where you get a guy who, sign him as a free agent. He has the right tools and could be, an NHLer. He's got good size, 6'1", 192 pounds. That's what Cloak had written about him. I think he's gone a little bit bigger since then. I've seen some people say he's 6'3", but I'll go with what Cloak has right now.
Yeah.
Broke his hand to start the year, so he did have a bit of an off season in terms of he didn't play a lot, but they like his IQ. He's got the size. Some comparisons to also to Jacob Quillen in terms of that potential guy that can come in and, gives you options. After you traded Fraser Minton, what it did is it took away a bit of your center depth. Your center depth, not only with the Marlies, but your prospects. So I do like this addition. It's when you can get a player of like a top free agent without having to give up draft picks and you just sign them to a deal, seems like kind of an easy win.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is an easy, an easy A grade signing. Whether it works out or not, it costs nothing but money. It's not even like it costs cap space until he gets to the NHL and he's on an entry level deal. So he's going to cost you league minimum anyways. But yeah, you noted it. Played the last 3 years at Dartmouth College in the NCAA. Kind of a late bloomer. The last couple of years, he's really come into his own. He's got 30 goals over the last 2 years in 53 games for Dartmouth College. And I got a quote from Scott Wheeler. I was hoping to get him on the show, but he was unable to. But he said, here's a quote from me about the player. So Scott Wheeler of The Athletic, he's a prospects writer, said, Quote, Haymes is a good player, sturdy, athletic, strong, good size center, good in the faceoff circle, solid both ways, wins battles, can finish around the net. Potential bottom sixer or solid middle six Marley who could be a call-up option. So you never know with these college free agents. We get excited about them when it happens, and it's always fun. But keep in mind, like Steves was considered a big time college free agent last year. Jacob Quillen was considered a big time college free agent addition. Same with Cade Weber was or would have been a free agent. I guess Toronto ended up signing him, but he would have been a college free agent at some point as well. It's not a linear track for these players. There have been the success stories. You mentioned Tyler Bozak, big time success story, or it could be like the Christian Hansen, where it's like, all right, plays a handful of games, but doesn't really turn, into that regular NHLer. I don't know. Luke Haymes is quite young, though, I will say, 21 years old. So usually they're like 22, 23, sometimes a little older when they finish up their full 4 years of college and then, go through the minors and whatnot. But not the case with Luke Haymes, just 21. So there's still quite a few years of development there, whether it's to his game, to his body, whatever it may be. And if he becomes an NHLer, that's great. If he turns into a good depth piece that, maybe helps out on the third and fourth line, sounds like he's, a really smart player, can forecheck, is reliable defensively. To me, it sounds like he could legitimately just be a good bottom six player for this team, a good bottom six winger, maybe a fourth line center potentially. If he can stick at the center ice position, that's where he is most comfortable. It's where he's played over the last couple of seasons. But either way, probably not someone you're going to see this year. Probably not someone you'll see next year. But maybe someone down the line becomes an injury call-up or competes in camp in a couple of years for one of those bottom six spots, similarly to the way, the Bobby McMahons and the Zach Hymans have done so coming through the college ranks. But that's the Maple Leaf signing in a nutshell. Luke Haymes, welcome to Toronto.
Yep.
Anything else you want to add on that?
No, I think you did a pretty good job. I think for patience and just gotta hope that the Marlies development system gives him a good shot, kind of like the Alex Steves, right?
Yeah.
Give him a good chance to even succeed at the AHL. It's never a bad thing to have someone that can do that too.
For sure. And look, for team 2, the fact that he's coming in, he's going to get to play with the Marlies the rest of the way. So they'll get him into the system right away. Like his college season literally finished yesterday, like Sunday afternoon. Dartmouth College got eliminated and he signed the very next day with the Maple Leafs. And there are many suitors apparently who are after him. So Toronto wins the sweepstakes here, we'll call it. And they get a free prospect, which after dealing away a few of their top level prospects, adding another one is pretty solid, right? Like Fraser Minton out the door. They ended up moving out Nikita Grabankin out the door. So bringing in Luke Haymes kind of just gives them an opportunity to add another one of those players to the prospect pipeline and someone who could probably come in and play a middle six role for the Marlies down the stretch and take on some of those minutes that were left behind by Minton and Nikita Grabankin. So we'll keep an eye on what he's doing with the Marlies, and maybe he surprises and becomes a staple for this team in the ilk of a Bozak. We'll see. Only time will tell, my friend. Only time will tell. Anything else you want to get to before we jet for the night?
No, I think we're pretty settled there.
All right. Max Pacioretty did practice today, by the way. There was no update on a timeline, though.
No, I
don't think. Yeah, but he was on the other practice pad skating. So Pacioretty, whether or not he's back before the end of the season, he will be back this year. We expect. So that's something to keep an eye on throughout the next week or two as well. All right, Dave, that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcast platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow. Enjoy the game tonight. Leafs, Flyers, go Leafs, go. We'll be back tomorrow for a new pod to break it all down. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.